I like throwing big baits. I don't like the cost, or the having to wait for them, or them being sold out in 5 minutes after you waited months. I showed you how to get around it initially, and now if you want to up that level, this is what you will have to do. Stay tuned and I'll walk you through my entire process of how I made my base station and what's inside of it. Stay tuned. This video is brought to you by the Big Bait Addicts Facebook group. You should join it. Anyways, quick backstory for anybody who cares. I watched Nate Marlin and Solar Baits and everybody became a huge fan, but didn't have time to do any of those things or had any of those tools, so I figured out a way to just make them very, very meagerly and showed everybody how to do it. And the results were pretty good for just doing it on my countertop with stuff from Hobby Lobby, so I kind of really started thinking, well, what else can I make? But then my wife got tired of all my bait making stuff everywhere all over the counter and the table and threatened to divorce me if I didn't go and do it in my garage. So I went and got a cobalt bench, the cheapest one that I could find at Lowe's, and stuck it together and just did a few mods. One of them was a metal surface. That way you can scrape off resin at will, because if it's a wood surface or any sort of epoxy surface, the resin will just bond to the epoxy and ruin the countertop. I also made a bunch of individual sections because the bigger thing was how to separate and get access at will all the little key components that it takes to make a bait, because there are several: weights, screw eyes, hooks, this, that, all this other crap. You just stick it in there. So I tried that, and then I tried this, and I finally found one that worked for all different types. This actually got me pretty far. I was finally able to crank out baits efficiently without making the wife more upset. And then along the line, something major happened. I didn't just start catching fish, I started breaking all my personal bests. Everybody knows that the best swim baits out there are made out of a garage from some independent bait maker, not mass replicated by the major bait companies. Those are okay, those are a good gateway drug, but then eventually you get hungry. All the success from making these baits has challenged me to bring my bait station to the next level, one that's truly capable of mass production. Although I don't know if I'll be able to produce these professionally because monkeys can't sell bananas. If you ever follow some of these bait makers on Instagram, they all have a pretty key setup. It's not really that big, but it has crucial components. Ways to hang lures to dry and cure, ways to store your mold library, ways to melt down plastisol, hold all your spray paints or your airbrushing kits, sandpaper, mesh templates, popsicle sticks, glue sticks, stencils, weights, hooks, split rings, chisels, clay tools, the clay, all of it. The list truly never ends. And you know what we mainly do on this channel, which is primarily boat building and then some outdoor adventures and stuff. So the space we have in this garage is finite. We're going to take scrap wood, build onto the existing bench, and make a spot for all those things. Biggest recommendation from fellow bait makers in the audience said that you need a place to store the microwave, and you only want a microwave designated for plastisol. You do not want to use your house microwave for that. So I got to make a section where I'm just going to put my microwave. I'm also going to make a section where I can store my mold library. So possibly we'll combo those two inside this box. And the other issue is I have no place for my baits to safely hang and just dry and cure and do their thing over time, because it takes a while. One bait that is properly done and cured correctly takes about a week before it can ever actually truly touch the water. So let's go ahead and give us a place to actually do that. We'll have one little section here, but I want a rack that slides out. So we're actually gonna have to mess with door slides for the first time ever. I recommend the expensive ball bearing door slides with an acceptable weight rating, because this can get heavy with, I don't know, the size of baits you have hanging down. We lined those up best we could, made sure they all worked, and now we're just gonna make some little meager frame. So we just took some cheap 1x2s that we got at the hardware store, made a square frame, and put supports every so often to give it some sort of structural rigidity. You don't really need a whole lot. The bigger thing that's actually going to hang the baits is perforated metal, which we are going to mount on top. And then all those little holes inside the metal frame, you can stick things in there. I chose to use screw eyes, which now looking back at that, it was kind of stupid. Just get some baling wire, stick it through the hole, and then just bend it around, and then you can put hangers anywhere you want. But even though it wasn't the smartest design, I still got it to work, and then later on I modified it with what I just told you. Another part is that I needed a place to store like all my crucial spray paints. I like spray painting, airbrushing. Eventually I'll get into it when I have time, but right now I just sell it to Hobby Lobby and get all the model paints, and those actually work really well because fish only hit 5 color profiles. I'm more obsessed with whether or not my baits can actually catch fish, how well they swim, and if they look right versus, you know, what kind of artistic creation I can do to them. And knowing that, all I need are like 5 basic colors that I can change here and there with color shift and add a few patterns, and then that's it. It'll just destroy fish. So I want to make an easy access panel that just holds all the crucial colors that I will use at any given time. I plan to do that by making a dual function door, one that's going to cover the microwave and the mold library and still hold all these little testers spray paints. I accomplished this by just using the spray paint itself to make the templates for the holes. Then I drilled those holes, and then I went and slanted with a hole saw. So it's a little ovalish when you do that, but that's the way you get it to sit at an actual angle. You also have to cut a bunch of half moons in the back, which is, I just did that to the rest because half of the can sticks out on a slant. That was all done out of 1/4 inch hardwood and 2x2s. So the inside was hollow for the cans to kind of fit through. And I used some slightly more heavy duty hinges because that will get heavy when you stick all the paints in there. Pair that with a few cheap but aesthetic looking door handles, and now you got a pretty functional system with that door. For an initial run, after mounting that directly on top of the cobalt bench, it did exactly what I needed to do. Hold all the paints, hold the mold library. I stored some excess spray paint, moved that out later to put a microwave in. The weight rack works very well, but that's really not even half of what we need to store, and we still got a lot to do. For one, I want some place to store the tackle boxes. The tackle boxes are still in many ways one of the most efficient ways to store all your little key componentry. And another big one is all the big consumables. You go through a lot of consumables and you need a place to put those, or it just gets very messy. You end up walking back and forth in the garage to your main toolbox just to do something. You need to be primarily sitting there and less distracted. So we got some other cheaper door slides, and we got the rest of that scrap plywood, and we're gonna go ahead and make our first ever drawers inside that section. It had a big section, a big void down there inside that bench, and I just utilized that void to make actual drawers. Once I made the drawers, they just needed a face plate for aesthetics and for covering, and that was just done out of some birch plywood I had that looked a little bit better than the crap plywood I stuck the drawers together to begin with. Once I had it all together, I just sealed it all in to make it look nice and finished. And then the dividers, I got just the foam board from Hobby Lobby. It's like $5.99 for the foam board. I just super glued it all in like that, and it divided pretty much for all my consumables for the glue sticks, the popsicle sticks, fish eyes, measuring cups, mixing cups, resin, silicone molds, stencils, pigment, all that stuff. And in the bottom, I stored my degassing vacuum, the UV light thing, measuring cups, bigger, bulkier stuff for the Dremel, things that are just in the way that I had no good place for. Those all went in there. And just like that, voila. Now I can mass replicate baits a little bit better. I mean, I'm still just one man. And if you're a one-man show making baits this way, it takes a minute. So you want the most efficient and most enabling setup that you can have. And if you're good at making baits, you get good promotion, get them in front of the right people, get the right people to use them for you that you can sponsor. You can make a pretty good living doing this. So I would recommend that anybody who's pretty serious about this make their own bait station, one that enables their workflow and maximizes efficiency and avoids burnout. And me, I was thinking about it, but like I said, monkeys can't sell bananas, getting high off your own supply. That's just how it ended up. After I make them, I don't want to give them up. I don't know what that says about me, but here I am, and I'm just gonna have the most fun I can. I'll see you guys out there. Good luck to you and your fishing ventures, no matter what you're using. But if you catch them on your own baits, let me tell you what, it's something truly epic to experience, and I hope you guys can experience it one day. Tide lines, take care.